Bom dia, Portugal!
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, GuMPers.
Carl's ringing his bell and his member shows. Now, when I ring that bell, thank you very much, T-Duck, for the bell. Mrs. M comes to the door and says, also the window, says, "Do you need me?" This is good. Lovely cup of coffee. Don't mind. Good morning, everyone. And Louise is absolutely right here. Gosh, so many people here in the chat already. Bon dia all, absolutely. And a new name. Look. Jackie. Oh, no, Jackie's been here before, but not a regular. Not yet, anyway. I think Jackie wants to move over to Portugal, possibly central Portugal. Is that right, Jackie? Good morning, all from the Grand Union Canal this morning. Wow. That sounds special. Is it special over there, Jackie? Let us know how you're doing this morning. Good to see you here again. So, yeah, got Louise, James is in, Sarah, Jean, T-Duck. Wise Men of the GuMPocalypse, of course, in this morning with Coach Turner, even though on holiday, reminding us that with the Bon Dia GuMPers, I hope you all remember to adjust your clocks. Mind you, considering how far west we are here in Madeira, yet in the same time zone, it shows what nonsense it is. For me, for the first time in my life, I've enjoyed a lighter morning. I probably won't feel so great tonight at 4 o'clock here, but yeah, it is. I mean, it is. Well, I guess it kind of reminds us, doesn't it, that time is a strange and illusory concept, and we don't like that, do we, us human beings, when we mess around with things anyway? It's a thwarted intention, isn't it, or an unexpected, unfulfilled expectation. Those sorts of things, those upsets that I recently wrote about actually in the Portugal Resident. That should be coming out this week. Yeah, it's an upset for people, and we don't like our upsets. It's a test, isn't it? If you think you're enlightened, just put the clocks back. See what that does to you. God Squad tip of the day then from Coach Turner, who, I should say, shouldn't I, that some people will be turning up in an hour's time to watch the show. So if you're watching the show now, this might be the replay if you didn't manage to put your clocks back and enjoy your egg. Did you enjoy an extra hour in bed? I've used that time myself. I've hacked. It's for me. I've quite enjoyed it. Probably for the first time in my life, as I've said. I've quite enjoyed this hour because it means it's easy to get up in the morning. I want to get up earlier in the mornings, and that has made it easier. So I'm good with it so far. But yeah, like I say, come 4 or 5 o'clock tonight, it's going to be a bit depressing, isn't it? God Squad tip of the day then. And after this God Squad tip of the day, we're going to start with some dancing. Thanks to Pam, who captured some folkloric dancing for us. There's a lady carrying a bowl on her head. Well, we should see that, shouldn't we? That came in after I was downloading videos, but they're all welcome on 913-590-303. One that I overlooked, I did make a video of John Heimbach's wonderful, well, not wonderful for the person who owned the car, but incredible footage of people, a couple of guys rescuing a car from the river Lima, the Ponte Lima. There was a section of it, and I thought, why is John showing us this? And I didn't look closely enough. He sent us a picture of the Centurions. You know, if you've ever been to Ponte Lima, there's that wonderful folkloric tale. And that's your second dose of folklore this morning, where the Centurions are on one side of the water and the leader of the Centurions is on the other side. And I won't spoil the story for you. I think we've got it in our YouTube collection. I must add that to GMP VIP to the treasury. And the footage that John sent us was showing us that the river had submerged the if you've ever seen those Centurions with their tall pikes The spikes of the pikes are just sticking out of the water as of last week. We have got a weather update. I think Deagle thinks we're in for a cold snap, but we'll have a look at that in just a moment, because I think typically with the weather, there are news sources is telling us the complete opposite, that we're due for a heat wave as well in November. Nearly there, nearly in November, and nearly gathering in San Martino de Porto, an early one. Normally our Discovery weekends are the second weekend of the month. And on this occasion, we are going for the first weekend of the month so that we can tie it in with Anna's immersion experience here. So people will be gathering on Friday here in San Martino de Porto. We're going to have a great weekend. More about that later on in the show. God Squad tip of the day then from Coach Turner. I don't know about you, but I can't be bothered with counting calories. Just too much like effort. However, as Carl has shown us, if you burn more than you consume, then you lose weight. Yeah, I was back on it yesterday. Went to the gym, 10,000 steps. And yeah, I'm continuing to lose weight. It is, yeah, calorie counting is a real faff, isn't it? I did do a little bit of it early on, but I think I've embodied the habits that make that a little bit easier without having to measure every blooming thing and be micromanaging it. But good point, Coach T. So this week I thought it would be useful to explore that a little. He continues to try and build an approximate picture for both using calories through exercise and putting them back in by growing old disgracefully. Yes, it's that balancing act. All of when life's functional, it's all about managing balance, isn't it? And getting the right measure of things, I would say. Over the last 4 days, I've been averaging around 15,000 steps per day. This takes about 2.5 hours and burns 600 kilocalories above normal. So my total calorie usage per day has been approximately 2,500. As a rough measure, a large glass of red wine. Stop it. As a rough measure, a large glass of red wine contains 200 calories. That to me has been very interesting. This whole thing about portions, I'm quite happy with the taste of things. If ever I were to make my impression or make an impression into the fitness world, it would be to think about why you drink or eat the portions you drink. And they're often not decided by you. They're habits. They're the habits of a lifetime, whereby you think, okay, well, the food industry has given me this. Well, there are two things, aren't there? There's our upbringing, where, of course, good parenting is seen as like, food, lots of it, and finish your food. You're not leaving the table until you finish that portion. And it all comes out of love, of course. And it sets up habits whereby you eat a random amount determined and governed by other people. So it's really I think what I've learned in the last couple of months, 3 months, is to get a sense of what works for you in terms of portions. It doesn't have to be what someone else has decided. And large glasses of red wine. It's a great thing about Portugal in the more sort of modern and trendy bars. I think it's veering towards the buckets, isn't it, of gin and tonic and the buckets of red wine. Go to a Portuguese cafe and you can get a really small red wine just to take the edge off things. No, I'm joking. Just to enjoy a little bit of red wine with your meal. You don't have to have the whole garrafa, do you? You can have a small one, and that's a tradition that works here. I think, albeit, there are sort of portion control issues as well. At midday, when you're having a prato do dia with a soup, a main course, and a rice pudding afterwards. But you can decide whether you need a taste of something, or you're thinking, okay, well, I just want a taste of beer. The mini is perfect for that, isn't it? A taste of beer. Why get a Caneca when all you want is a taste? So that's been really helpful to me, and I hope it is to you too. Bon dia, thank you for that, Coach T. And we've talked a little bit about the God Squad tip of the day, a bit of dancing, lots of dancing, I think. Bon dia, alegria, GuMPers from T-Duck. And on this matter of training and going to the gym, good morning, Coach. T-Duck enjoying his conversations with Coach Turner in the morning. Last time I went to the gym, I saw a guy put a water bottle into the Pringles holder on the treadmill. Can you believe that? And we'll come back to the deep thoughts and the dad jokes. And yeah, morning T-Duck from Coach Turner. It's confusing when people fill up the Pringle holder, isn't it? With their either their mobile phone. I ran half a kilometer. I was waiting for a machine to become free in the gym yesterday. And I thought to myself, what should I do? Instead of standing there like people do in gyms, sort of puffing and looking into the middle distance. It's funny, isn't it? How people do that. But I've started doing it as well, even though I think it's funny. I'll jump on a running machine until the machine is ready. And so, yeah, in one Pringle holder had my phone in, and the other had my water in. So sorry if that's caused any confusion. And on that note, my wine glasses hold more than 200 calories. Yeah, they don't have to be filled to the brim. You could get smaller glasses if you wanted to, which you probably don't. Smash that like button, says T-Duck, before popping off to do some errands this morning. So a bit of dancing then. If you haven't managed to do as much exercise over the weekend as you wanted to, why not do it now? 30 seconds of fartlek folkloric dancing. Here you go. Beautiful. And a bit more. There's more to come. So if you were getting into that and you think, hold on a minute, I've got my dancing trousers on yet. Okay, I hope you've got them on now. That's it. Zip them up. Tighten your belt. Let's go. There was the lady with the bowl on her head. That's a remarkable thing in so many ways, isn't it? I think that you're seeing some traditional dancing, you're seeing some traditional costumes and habits of the Portuguese people. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And thank you. I will bank that in learnaboutportugal.com as well. So thank you very much, Pam. Great examples there of folkloric dancing. And you say, where are they from this weekend? Folklore dancing at the San Simão Festival in Alcobaça. Yeah, with the lady carrying a bowl on her head. And look, just a little child in there as well, walking around. That's a really special moment, I think, for that child. I hope they enjoyed doing that. I certainly enjoyed seeing all those folks circling the stage like that and showing us how it's done here in Portugal. I'm being sent pictures by Paul Woods, the artist who's going to be joining us at 9:30 this morning. We've got a Paul sandwich. We've got Paul Correa joining us at 9. Remember him from Fiduciary Wealth Management in Gibraltar, who likes to talk about macroeconomics. Always great and interesting talking to Paul. And then a new Paul, a Paul Woods, who's just sent me a picture. I can create art like this too. He sent me some very interesting pictures, it has to be said, which I am putting together into one place at the moment. As I speak, I think you're going to be impressed and certainly intrigued by the work of Paul Woods, the artist, whose work I am saving now. So looking forward to talking to Paul Woods. He's going to be assisted, I believe, by BairrAndy from his home in the BairrAndy district in central Portugal. So looking forward to speaking to Paul Woods at around 9:30 and Paul Correa at around 9. But also this man, I think, will be popping in as well. Coming soon to the GMP is Monty Gordo, talking about his plans to move to Portugal. Top TV celebrity from the United States, Monty Gordo, thinking about moving to Portugal. Monty might be calling in to the show. Oh, better switch that on, hadn't I? If Monty's going to be calling in. Monty, if you're listening, you can do that via WhatsApp, hopefully. So I will make the connection so that you can do that a little bit later on. Looking forward to speaking to you. How lovely. Yeah, let me just press the right buttons for that to occur. 913-590-303, of course, is the way to contact the show or to send us lovely videos and pictures as Paul Woods, the artist, has done, as Pam has done this morning. I think we need to say a few more hellos this morning. Just saving the most recent of things that's come through into the onto that number 913-590-303. Let's see what's going on back in the comments. Mr. S has joined us as well. Lovely, yeah, lovely full house this morning on this 5th Monday of the month. It does go a little bit, I was going to say wonky and weird possibly, because there's an option. Our regulars are on a schedule. I don't know if you've noticed, somebody will have the first Monday, somebody will have the second Wednesday, and so on and so forth. We had Frank, of course, on the 4th Friday. When we have 5th days of the month, it gives us a chance to welcome people who aren't normally regulars and co-hosts on the show and special guests, hence the return of Paul Correa and Paul Woods joining us for the first time this morning. So where do we get to in the chat? Let's have a look. Dad jokes for later. Yes, we can do those with Paul Woods and see how well he can take a dad joke. And smashing that like button. That's where we got to. Please do that. I don't know what it does, but do it anyway. Let's see what happens. Let's like that smash button. And bon dia a todos from James. Feliz segunda. ¿Cómo está? Sorry to miss my Mindful Monday spot. Carl squeezed me out this week. Sorry about that, mate. But you'll be back next Monday. Abscess makes the fart go bongo. I don't know if anyone remembers that joke from school. Dad joke warning then from you. I mean, you're making your presence felt regardless of not having a Mindful Monday spot today. I wear memory foam insoles to remember when I walked into the next room. That's very good. A bit like memory foam mattresses, isn't it? I mean, there's some of those memories on there that should not be remembered by a mattress or anybody. And I'm going to have to get rid of the comments, I believe, and the banner. Or yes, I am. I'm going to have to get rid of the banner at a strategic moment. Thank you, James, for this. When I was a child, I got a telekinetic. You can tell this is torturous right from the get-go, can't you? When I was a child, I got a telekinetic abacus for a birthday present. That doesn't sound like a very good present. And the punchline, get ready, brace yourself. The punchline, it was the thought that counts. Oh, more to come. Top drawer dad jokes from T-Duck towards the end of the show this morning. So let's get rid of that and see what else. What else and who else is in the chat this morning. Thank you for that, James. Very good. And we do have a funny bit at GMP VIP as well, where James posts things as well. But don't let that put you off. I'm a week into my own 30-day challenge. When I spoke to my daughter in the UK, she said she just run a 10K first. It's just interesting. Is it the time of year where quite a few people seem to be doing a little bit of a challenge of some sort? Carl Hyde, who I saw the other day at the San Martino de Porto meetup at the Storytellers, he too lost a lot of weight. Well done, Carl. Keep up the good work. I'm a week into my own 30-day challenge as Louise, 30-minute workout every day for 30 days. I'm a little sore. I think you're an amazing athlete anyway. Louise. So what exactly are you doing in that 30-minute workout? I wonder. Is it like the hotel workout that you can do? It's like using your resistance training against your own body weight. Is it that sort of thing? And something to think about from James as well. We should have a way of telling people their breath stinks without hurting their feelings. Like, I'm bored. Let's go brush your teeth. If anyone tells you that today, I think you can get the message. Bon dia, Carl and GuMPers from a 5-degree Belfast Shuva. My Shuva. Yes, it's true. And weather from Deagle. He says we've got a cold snap coming. And apparently these pictures prove that, demonstrate that. Where's Portugal, though? Oh, yeah, we've got the... is that high pressure then below? Oh, and I think it might be time to do my Try Something Portuguese. Got something a little bit different today to try with you. Thank you very much, Deagle, for that. I think I've got a news article somewhere that tells us that there's going to be a heat snap or a heat wave. So we've got a cold snap and a heat wave on the way. That's not especially helpful, is it? So let's try something Portuguese this morning. We'll roll the VT on that. And today's Try Something Portuguese is this: lavanda, an eau de cologne. Bit old-fashioned, bit old gifferish, isn't it? Got myself some glasses over the weekend, so it kind of fits. And what with those melted Werthers in my trouser pockets, it's the complete look from Brito, the lavanda eau de cologne. So I'm going to splash a bit on now. I'm trying something Portuguese. I'm not just telling you about it. Bit into the palm, and some of it's dropped onto my leg and burning a hole in my trousers right now. Oh, splash it all over, as they used to say. Bit under the armpits as well. Smells good to me. Oh, Mrs. M's just burst into the room.
What is that delicious smell?
Oh, my word. Look at this. It works, everybody. It apparently makes you more sexy and touchable. She didn't even ask permission, did she? But I'm not
No, I
minding it. I'm
didn't.
not minding it at all. So there you go. I can commend to you lavanda. Like that, Mrs. M?
Love it.
There you go. Brito's lavanda eau de cologne. There you go. Try something Portuguese. Oh, yes. More aftershave. What's that, room service? Yes, a lovely cup. Say again?
Would you like something?
Yeah, I'd love a cup of coffee.
Cold?
One of your milky coffees would be rather lovely. Thank you very much. I'm feeling milky right now. Oh, okay. Pete's here. I like that. Okay, so there we got Shuva e mais Shuva. A few minutes to go until Paul Correa joins us from Gibraltar. He's had the clocks. Let's see if this works out. He's had the clocks going back, and he's got a time difference in Gibraltar. I wonder if it's gonna work out this morning. Rain and more rain in Belfast. Has been a shocking month, says Deagle. Jean's in, and Sarah Yeoman with a bon dia, and a bon dia from Jean as well. Feliz Segunda de Mon Carapacho, and from Nuno, look, muito bon dia a todos. That's lovely, isn't it? A very good day to you. Muito bon dia a todos. Thank you, Nuno. Great to see you here. Nuno! James shouting for you there. It seems that in Lisbon we'll have a dry day. Well, that'll make a nice change. And yeah, Louise's chat earlier on. Gosh, so many people here in the chat already. Bon dia. If you're a lurker and you don't normally say hi, why not say hello this morning? Lots of people are. Jackie's here as well. Andy Klein, see you at the weekend, mate. Good morning, everyone. Now, this is where Andy will be setting up at the weekend. We're at the San Martino de Porto. To set the scene, it's a discovery weekend. San Martino de Porto this weekend, starting this Friday. Bit of a gathering on the Friday night. Let's have a drink, get together and see each other. And then Andy will be lighting this atmospheric space. That's upstairs at the Storytellers. Oh, and there's the external. It's got a very picturesque set to deal with this weekend. There's the dining room. I imagine we'll be in there from time to time. And then in the basement is the Gatsby Bar. Now, this man, I'm sure, is going to be a star of our production this weekend. The Englishman, the Irishman, and a Portuguese hotel owner go into the Gatsby Bar, and they're going to have drinks made by Luis there, who have made a brilliant, although Frank had a proper go at me on Friday about this, a beautiful, I think it's called a Bloomsbury Breezer. It was delicious. It was raspberry flavored. I think it had gin in it and sours as well, whatever they are. I think he did explain that to us. And there it is on the counter. And that's the room that Andy will be lighting. Sorry, that's not a wide shot there, but Andy has been there and I think really likes the space. And that's where we're going to be filming that conversation between the Englishman, the Irishman, and the Portuguese hotel owner. And I want to quiz him about, he made us a beautiful dessert of arroz doce, his grandma's recipe. He says he grew up in the kitchen, basically with his grandparents and in their restaurant. So I'm sure that'll be one of many talking points with Marco, the owner of the Storytellers, and a prolific film and TV director, producer here in Portugal. He's made films for pretty much anyone you can think of here in Portugal. So I'm sure me and Bobby O'Reilly are going to have a great conversation with him on Saturday afternoon. If you want to join us, if you want to have a drink in the background, be an extra in that production, come join us in San Martino de Porto. Oh, the refood thing happened over the weekend. Let's find out what's going on there. Hiya, sweetie. Oh, I like that, Jackie. Yes, Central Portugal is my dream. It's cold and wet here today on the Grand Union Canal. Sounds so great. Pete saying to Jackie, pretty chilly in Central Portugal, but last, the first sun in 10 days in the morning. Bit of morning glory there for Peter, and morning to James, Louisa, Andy, and Nuno as well from Pete in Central Portugal. And a bon dia from Pam, who says she's got a further correspondence for us this morning in the chat. I find when we go out for a meal, I can usually only manage a main course. I don't know how people manage a starter and a dessert as well. It's training, isn't it? Like everything, it's training and habit. And I noticed when we were in La Vie, in the shopping centre in Caldas de Rainha, there are takeout boxes stacked into one side. You know, you take your tray and you get rid of all your waste stuff. You know, the waste food and unfortunately, which is such a shame, isn't it? There are boxes there, so you can take your food home, and I think that's probably a habit that will proliferate across Portugal. And we know, don't we, Portuguese restaurants? I've never known a Portuguese restaurant not to be very happy to bring you a box if you ask for a para levar, a takeaway of what you can't eat. I think culturally, Portuguese people don't like wasting food. So I'm totally with you there, Pam. And if you can't eat it, you can get a takeaway, generally speaking. Para levar, faz favor. Successful open day at ReFood on Saturday. That's great. A few new recruits. Marvelous. Mr. S with a bon dia desde certa agosto imenso deste lugar. Thank you very much, Mr. S, talking to us only in Portuguese. Excellent stuff. Embora a visão de anglo-parlante, mas em breve figueirei deste hotel. What's that? There's an invasion of English speakers. I need to leave this hotel. Is that right? Something along those lines, anyway. And from James to Pam, igualmente, I take that's so yeah. James doesn't like to have a starter and a dessert as well. Probably likes to, but can't manage to fit it all in. I take my to-go leftovers, but so he takes one with him. That's very good, isn't it? He's probably got a bag for life and a Paralavar box with me wherever I go out to eat. Very thoughtful. The little girl got a round of applause and introduced as the newest member. I know, isn't she lovely? Fantastic. A little girl in the folkloric dancing earlier on. Yes, as hard as it is to believe. What? No Mindful Monday with James? Yes, a fifth Monday. It's a bit of a weird one this morning. No disrespect to Paul Correa, who's getting ready behind the scenes. Sue's also here with us this morning. Good morning to you, Suze. Good day, GuMPers. Give us a thumbs up, Paul, if you can hear us and all is well at your. Oh, he's thumbing up. Good and proper. I thought that the clock's going back and the Gibraltar time difference might make it a little bit challenging, but no, not for a man of his intelligence. Man, I'm taking a real beating today. Sorry about that, James. Was that an accent over the last? Was that an accent over the last? Hey, where are we? Where are we? Where are we looking now? Lots going on in the chat. Owen here as well. Oh, and Owen, the latest in a long line of very kind people who's offering a discount to GMP VIPs. We are collecting offers, discounts, perks for GMP VIPs, those people who support the Good Morning Portugal show. They're all available. They're growing in one of the classroom sections, course sections of GMP VIP. So thanks, Owen, for adding to that. Bob, too. Mrs. M's going to add something in there soon as well. Alison James, bon dia all. I'm tuned in. Hello, Alison. Good to see you here from San Martino de Porto. So nice to be here. It is, isn't it? Is that San Martino de Porto or is that the show? Or is it both? Aviva also in this morning. Hola, bon dia todos. I'm in a Madrid cafe today. Coffee in Portugal is muito melhor. That's interesting. Good to know. Get that bit of feedback from Madrid. You prefer the coffee in Madeira in Portugal. And Andy Klein, yes, be an extra. We need to fill that room. So if you want to join us Saturday afternoon, come along. You've been invited by the director, no less. Just letting you know, the Scouts are doing a great job selling calendars. We currently have 3. Yes, isn't that a wonderful time of year? And Filomena, Tia Filomena is with us. Hola, bon dia. And how's it going with the bookings for Golgan, Filomena? And of course, Filomena will be helping us out. In fact, you don't know this, but Filomena is going to be helping us out with our organization. How I've done it so far with the Discovery Weekends, it's a loose template. Filomena's getting involved. There's going to be no loose templates where Filomena's involved. It's going to be well-organized trips around Coimbra on the 9th and 10th, I believe, of December, when that's our Discovery Weekend in Coimbra. Yes, 9th, well, gathering on the 8th, and then being in Coimbra on the 9th and 10th. Filomena's getting involved, so it's going to be great. So, desejar boa semana a todos antes de começar a minha semana de trabalho. So, Filomena getting into work there this week and wishing us a good one, a good week to everybody here, the GuMPers. We're going to be joining Paul in just a moment in Gibraltar. Good morning from Soli Finesse. Bev, it was so good to see you at the meetup. I'm going to be smoking cigars and hanging out with your husband in the Gatsby bar. I'm looking for, I think we should have a soul jazz, cigars and whiskey and bourbon night. I say I'm going to be hanging out with your husband. That does sound rather exclusive, borderline sexist even. Perhaps see you there as well, Bev. And hi, Filomena from Owen as well. Filomena continuing with the Portuguese. If you'd like to learn, watch the chat and then hit her up on, what is it? Let me remember now. Brits. Trips for Brits. If you want to learn how to speak Portuguese under the tutelage, leadership of Filomena, that'll be Trips for Brits with the number 4, tripsforbrits @gmail.com. And also she'll do translations for you there as well. Sign us up as extras. There's no signing up to do. Your lawyers need to speak to our lawyers. No, not really. Just rock up. I'll confirm the time on the website. Does it include a glass of wine for ambiance? Okay, I think I'll get a few bottles of wine organised for that as well. Let's give him a nice big round of applause and bring him onto the screen. The screen, I should say. Mr. Paul Correa. Paul, it is so good to see you again. How are you?
Same. Doing very well, Carl, and you?
Pretty good on this fifth Monday, where we're delighted to welcome you back to the Good Morning Portugal show. And as you could hear me saying there, the clocks went back. Gibraltar is an hour ahead of us. I don't know what that means. You're better with numbers, obviously, than I am. But here you are. No problems here with the time change or the time difference.
No problem.
So tell us, it's been an interesting time. We thought it was fairly spicy and interesting, didn't we, in the world of macroeconomics and how money is moving around the world, more for some than others, it would appear, with the greatest wealth transfer, I suspect, in a long time. And then there's us mere muggles who are trying to manage our wealth. That's what you help people with. For those people who haven't met you before and don't know what you do, why not give us a quick introduction to fiduciary wealth management before we get started on those questions about money?
I mean, Fiduciary Wealth Management was founded in 2007. We are born out of a law firm, the oldest law practice in Gibraltar, which was founded in 1892. So that's a 131-year-old law firm.
Wow.
We belong to a top 20 global accountancy network, MGI Worldwide, which is represented by 10,000 professionals across 460 locations, 100 countries, and across all continents. And our business is all about helping British expats with their with their financial affairs. I mean, we deal primarily with retirees, senior executives, and entrepreneurs.
Okay, let me just reiterate that then. So it's especially Brits who are making their way or have retired in the Iberian Peninsula, which would include Portugal, Spain, and Gibraltar, where we find you this morning. Okay, and I love it. It's wonderful what is said over there on your webpage. I've put the link to it, dedicated to helping expats and their families. So it's all about that very personal one-to-one service. Which is looking at people's lifelong wealth management. You're in for the long term. You're into building relationships with people.
Completely.
That's what people know FWM for, I believe.
Completely. I mean, our business is all about developing long-term, deep personal relationships with each and every client. I mean, clients are at the center of everything we do. So, we are not fly-by-night merchants that come and go. I mean, we are completely dedicated and passionate about serving the British expatriate community across the entire Iberian Peninsula. That's who we are. That's what we do. And, we take pride in serving each and every one of the clients that we onboard.
Excellent. And that's how you can get in touch with Paul, paul.correa@fwm.gi. Now, it has to be said, Paul, this is not an easy time to be in your business, is it? I mean, we're a long way from the heyday, weren't we? Of like, I'll just give my financial consultant, my wealth manager a ring, got a bit of money to put to one side, need to think about my retirement. I've been working for 40 years. I'm going to retire soon. Need to talk to a professional about this. And those were the halcyon days, weren't they, in your profession? And things have become somewhat more turbulent in the last few years, have they not?
Well, they've become turbulent since 2019.
Yeah.
And then we had Brexit, and then we had COVID. And but in 2016 to 2019, in 2016, let me remind your viewers, interest rates were at zero. The Federal Reserve and other central banks started increasing rates. We had a tantrum in the bond market, and by 2019 that reached 2-3%. And then, of course, came Brexit, COVID, and everything else, and we decided to go back to zero interest rates and to inject a lot of new money into the global economy, the price of which we are paying for with runaway inflation. So no, markets have been turbulent ever since, going up when they really should be going down. And but now we are seeing the end game where the markets are really not going anywhere because there's tighter monetary conditions, high interest rates. They're removing excess liquidity from the monetary system, and yeah, I mean, with interest rates at 5, something will break, and the U.S. economy is now on the brink of some kind of a slowdown at best, or a outright recession at worst. And yeah, and if you look at all the asset classes, it's quite strange, really, Carl, if you look at it, because the bond market now has upward sloping interest rates. The yield is going up. That implies in a normal market that the global economy is growing fast. Yeah, that's why
Mhm.
interest rates are going up, when in fact it's not. The equity market is starting to decline. So it's starting to point to some kind of a recession or a slowdown. So the bond market is saying one thing, the equity market is saying another. And then if you look at precious metals and commodities, and we're seeing a sell-off in those, that indicates that inflation is no longer a risk. When in fact, inflationary pressures may have receded. But if history is anything to go by, they're coming waves of 3, and I think we've seen the first wave. I don't think we're out of the woods because you know, if the economy breaks and there's already a spike in delinquencies, in bad debt in the US, if it
Oh,
breaks, if it slows down, we go back to, and I keep using the same phrase. I'm sorry, you bring me in after a year, and you probably hear the same thing, but it's the drug addict that's given more coke rather than accept going cold turkey. Yeah, we'll
yeah.
have lower interest rates and more monetary stimulus to keep the party going as long as possible. But no, it's difficult times, no doubt, because the market is flat, if
Yes.
anything, trending lower, and there's no particular asset that's performing well. If you look at U.S. Treasuries, for instance, they've declined 46% since 2021. That's the biggest decline in history, in U.S. history, and this is a safe asset. Yeah, if you look at UK gilts, they've declined 40% over the same period. The safe bastion of UK investments. Nothing is safer than UK gilts. Well, they've gone down 40. But what's more worrying in the US in particular is if you look at US interest rates, or sorry, UK, the 10-year Treasury bond and the yield, because the 10-year Treasury bond is a benchmark for lending rates. Yeah.
Hmm.
And that's why it's so critical. And when it breaks through the 5%, that normally triggers a recession. But the yield is going up. Now, the yield is going up because Saudi Arabia is dumping US treasuries. China is dumping US treasuries. Russia is dumping US treasuries. And maybe they each have a reason for doing so. One of them is you don't want to hold an asset which is declining in value, right? Why would any government hold another country's investments when it's losing 0.5% of its value?
Right.
But the second one is more strategic, and more meditated, and it's these countries are trying to form the BRIC plus plus. They're
Well, I
trying
wanted to ask you about that. I wanted to
Yeah,
ask you
they're
about
trying to
how
create their own
serious this is.
currency, and they want to put pressure on the dollar. This is all about geopolitical, um, strategic games. It's a chess game, yeah, and they're putting pressure. But what's concerning is if they keep dumping US treasuries, the yield will go higher. We
Hmm.
know that 35% to 50% of US treasuries mature in the next, I think, 12 to 24 months. Who's going to buy those treasuries, which are negative yielding assets? The buyer of last resort is the US treasury.
Well,
If
I
they
was going
buy,
to say they'll buy. It's like the country will buy its own products, won't it? And just have
correct, but
to create more money to do so, and then add to
exactly.
the inflationary cycle.
Thank you, Carl. You say you're not switched on, but I think you're more switched on than me. That's exactly what I was trying to say. They
Yes.
buy their own treasuries. They
Yes.
expand. The Fed expands its balance sheet again. There's more money in circulation, and we go back full circle to inflation and more debt, which is madness. So I think the US is really it's got like 2 or 3 pieces in the chessboard, and it's almost snookered now by the BRIC economies. And look at geopolitics. They've got they've been dragged into the Ukraine-Russia war. They're being sucked into the Israeli-Palestinian conflict,
Yeah.
and they're spending a lot of money to fund those. I think the U.S. Treasury, the Senate or whatever, didn't they approve $104 billion of money to Israel? So besides running huge deficits, they are sucked into 2 wars: Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Gaza, stroke the rest of the Middle East, which would be insane. And then they've got Taiwan. What happens once they've run out of money and the Chinese decide to invade Taiwan? How are they going to do it?
Well, Paul, you've cheered us right up this morning.
That's what I do. That's what I do.
The other part of what you do, of course, is help people in this scenario, based on your wealth of experience and your insight there. So that's the important question. I mean, my question about the BRICS nations and the end game, as you put it, can wait for a moment. And for many people, of course, let's get that this, the recession is already a recession for many people in the world, isn't it? It's like, well, I guess what we're talking about here within our privileged and more fortunate realms, perhaps, is that it hasn't got to some of us yet, in the way that it has to millions, billions of people around the world. It's interesting, isn't it? To somebody perhaps who's lost their home and job, and they're hearing on the news that a recession isn't officially declared yet, but it might be. So, well, hold on a minute. Some people are actually physically, viscerally experiencing that in their own real life. So we are dealing with that situation, or some of us are already. And the others are concerned about that as a possibility and what to do in these circumstances. So what are you saying to people in these most challenging of times in your position in your industry?
Well, firstly, let me just expand on what you've said. You've hit a very important point, and you're absolutely right. There's a cost of living crisis. There's a recession in everything but name, because statistics, lies, damn lies. It's all cooked up so it looks and it feels like it's something else, but really there's a lot of people who are feeling. Everyone is feeling the impact of this cost of living crisis, recession, call it what you may, because nothing is real anymore. But you're right.
It's gaslighting, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, so, well, hold on a minute. It just feels like it's definitely a cost of living crisis. It's a recession. People are feeling this. Their lives have been changed, some beyond recognition. It's happening. And like T-Duck saying, they changed the dictionary definition of recession. It's oh yeah, why bother to fix anything when you can change the language? But sorry, I interrupted you there.
No, I think Thunderduck is right. Call it what you may. You can give it whatever headline and narrative you want, but I think most people can feel the effects of this cost of living crisis, and it's a recession, everything but name. But look, where can we add value? I think it's never been more important for British expats in Portugal to seek a second opinion. I would say it's fundamental and it's crucial.
Yeah.
Why? I think because you avoid costly mistakes. You are able to mitigate risk by considering varying viewpoints in order that you have a more balanced assessment of the risks and rewards out there. I think it gives you the peace of mind and the confidence that you can, that you understand the situation, and you can reduce the uncertainty about your financial future. A second opinion gives you a diverse perspective, and there might be different opportunities and approaches that the person has not considered. So a second opinion in this environment is crucial. Take the US, for instance. In the medical profession, only 12% of the time is the first medical diagnosis the same as the second one. it means that 88% of the time, if the patient had gone and sought a second opinion, the medical or the you know the prognosis and the treatment plan would have been different and more and better probably.
Yeah, well said. Yeah,
So
yeah,
so this is transferable to the financial services sector. A second opinion, I would say, is fundamental in a market like this where no one really knows where we're heading, and
yes,
that's why we keep insisting gold and silver. Be patient; it might take longer, but it's the only asset which will preserve value over the long
yes.
term.
Yeah, so second opinion, run the numbers, I suppose, is another way of putting it, isn't it? Don't make assumptions based on your current situation, and we're seeing this, aren't we, with the NHR at the moment? I'm sure you felt the repercussions of that decision. Must have been quite an awkward morning to go to work on, when the forward prospects of many of your clients will have been affected by that, I suspect. But the immediate reaction for most people, as with most things, I suppose, is an emotional one. And you don't really know the full impact, do you, until you run the numbers and have the second opinion or the third or whatever, however many opinions you have. But it's good to get rational and look specifically at the maths, isn't it, rather than just going on your old bit of seaweed or your first emotional reaction from drummed up drama in the media, for example. So a good advice. So to take a second look, and you of course reference as we know you do, and which seems to be a tried and trusted method. The precious metals are very important to you, aren't they, as part of the game plan? And it's not a game. Sorry to use that phrase.
I would say cash is king, and some commodities at some point, maybe it's worth buying some bonds, but it's difficult to find an asset that's going to deliver the returns that you're looking for if you take a
Yeah.
short-term view.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, it's uncertain times. I mean, the closing down is not just NHR. I mean, Italy has now followed suit, came out with a press statement that they're going to tinker with their tax regime in Portugal on the back of what, in Italy, on
Oh,
the back of
really?
what Portugal is doing. Yeah, the
Yes.
European Union is squeezing those citizenship by investment programs in the Caribbean and in other countries to try and, you know, close them down if they may, because they give visas into Europe. So, you know, there's
Yeah.
nowhere to hide. Governments want more tax revenue and they don't care how they do it.
Yes, and I mean, your advice to the individual is not to take a short-term strategy because it can be very costly. That's the opposite of what governments do, isn't it? Governments, by definition, are short-term thinkers, aren't they? Because they've only got 5 years. If they're the unluckiest scenario, I guess, is a few years with a 5-year term, for example. So they do things that aren't going to be long-term by definition, really, because of the way politics works. And you see this, don't you? I mean, Spain, I heard Spain talking about, okay, so Portugal have dropped their NHR. We'll come up with something. We'll entice taxpayers over here. And then we see, don't we, long term, they're not going to remain generous, are they? They're just going to do things that attract you quickly and sort of turn your head. But their best interests are not with you. Let's
I'll,
face it.
gi-
That's
I'll
a
give
fact,
you
isn't it?
I'll give you two examples in Spain.
Sure.
First,
Yeah.
12 months ago, the Andalusian right-wing government scrapped Spanish wealth tax in Andalusia. 2 weeks later, the national government imposed a national law which hasn't been approved yet, from what I understand,
Mm.
scrapping regional wealth tax and applying a Spanish wealth tax at a national level.
Yeah.
So more tax. That's one. The second thing they've done post Brexit is that they applied a new tax ruling for non-EU pension transfers into Spain, which really is aimed at Brits only, because how many other nationalities move in to Spain in huge numbers, and if you transfer your UK pension to Spain, they tax you up to 46% of the value at inception. And then whatever is left over, they tax you on any income you draw. Can you imagine the lunacy, harebrained idea of doing that? And we've seen it in Portugal. They wanted to scrap golden visa due to, it putting pressure on property prices for Portuguese nationals. Why didn't they decide to create a fund for social housing where
Yeah.
people applying for golden visas could just invest in that fund, which then funds the government to do those projects, and it's a win-win. Why would you close it down?
That
It's
seems
madness.
eminently sensible. Your usual and much appreciated common sense approach, Paul. That would be a perfect marriage, wouldn't it? Attract investment and give the people the benefit of the investment you've attracted. I mean, absolutely is. It just yes.
It's
What?
bonkers.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. But I guess by the time they've created a system where they can reappropriate inward investment into social housing, they're miles away, aren't they? Again, it's a long-term strategy, isn't it? The likes of which is unlikely to be seen by any government or politician who might have another agenda, of which we needn't speak about right now. But they're not long-term. And they seem to be quite self-interested, our current bunch, don't they, around the world of politicians. Well, if we can talk about BRICS a little bit, that'll be great. However, before we do that, they'll just print more. That's Gene's response. When the United States need more money to fund things, they'll just print more money. Can't go on forever, can it? The US can't protect their borders or help their own citizens, but they can finance wars and government employees. Yeah, governments can often find money for wars, can't they, strangely enough? When they were telling people up until that point, no, there's no money. They changed the dictionary definition of research. We saw, recession, what am I talking about? Why bother to fix anything when you can change the language? There's a lot of that about at the moment, isn't there? A recession this is very poignant. A recession is when your neighbor loses his job. A depression is when you lose your job. That's pretty chilling, isn't it? But there's a lot of sort of common sense in that as well. A recession used to be. Is this the old-fashioned definition, Paul?
No, that is the current definition. But Van der Dak is his comments are on the money as well as the lady before
Yeah, he
Van der
likes
Dak.
you too.
It's
He likes
true
you
that
too.
is the official definition. But hey, what is a recession these days?
The current definition is whatever Biden's handlers say it is. And to be fair, that we can apply that to all politicians, can't we? They're economic handlers and or whatever handlers they have. Tell them what to say, don't they? I'm not sure many of them completely understand the nuances anymore. They're not learned people. I don't know if I'm mistaken, Paul, in thinking that once upon a time politicians were quite learned and reflective and might do a bit more jaw rather than war, as it were. We don't seem to have that caliber of politician anymore. But again, let's not get sidetracked by that. Let's see what other people are saying. Amazing approach. Nunu also approves of your shares this morning. Your sharing, not your financial shares or your share tips, but the sharing of your message this morning. Amazing approach, Paul. I don't massage the figures. The Federal Reserve and politicians do that. And Paul, from Pete, there is a big difference. Oh, you're the first of our Pauls today, Paul Correa. We have Paul Woods, artist, joining us in the second half of the show as well. Paul, there's a big difference between this Paul Correa, Fiduciary Wealth Management, between physical gold and silver, something that has been oversold on an index. I'm still yet to find a good bullion dealer in Portugal. Any advice? That's a great question. And he's right, isn't he? I mean, holding it is more important than a certificate, is it not?
Well, I mean, I think he mentions a very good and valid point, because the rumor in the market is, if you look at those futures trading in certificates, they have highly leveraged. So perhaps they have 1 bar of gold in a stored away, and they leverage that 6 times, 10 times. So it's almost like a Ponzi schemes. Yeah. If suddenly
it isn't so.
if everyone wanted to, take their physical gold, I don't think it's over leveraged. So he's got a good point. It's always, ideally you would buy physical, yeah, and you store it somewhere safe, and then there's no doubt you've got the physical gold.
Yes.
But I think there's money to be made in trading, either funds or leverage funds over the long term, but not short term.
Do you know of a good bullion dealer in Portugal? Is the question.
I have no idea.
Well,
I think the best thing is to
mine it
the answer
yourself.
is no.
Okay, thanks, Paul, for that. Ken is saying Pete has the land for physical gold. What for mining? Is there going to be a new Portuguese gold rush around Pete's house? Perhaps, I don't know. Great to have Paul on the show, both of them. Yeah, Paul Correa and Paul Woods today on the show. And who needs taxes? This is an interesting question. So this and bricks, I'll ask you about, Paul, if I may. Who needs taxes when you can just print more? Taxes are all about behaviour control. Now, whether or not that's true, a child could be forgiven for thinking, well, hold on a minute, mummy and daddy, the government can print money. Why are they taking tax off you when they could just print money and give it to you? Why do we have to have taxes when we can just print money, Paul?
To fund.
It's a good question, isn't it?
It's a good question because money, has to be paid at some point, and taxes
Yeah.
is government receipts
Well,
to
couldn't they
try
just
and
take it as source? Couldn't they just print it and then hold it and use it to spend on things like roads? The usual things people talk about with tax, social welfare,
but,
roads,
but,
airports. Can't
yeah,
they just print it and
but if you think about it, if you print money, you're effectively issuing a debt instrument. That
yes,
debt instrument requires investors,
yes,
and it requires, and there's a debt servicing cost, and it needs to be repaid at some point.
yes.
So,
Okay.
I mean, that would be, the debt would then spiral completely out of control, and money would lose its intrinsic value.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, in a normal situation, revenue and expenditure should balance. Yeah, sometimes
Okay.
you have budget surpluses, sometimes you have deficits. In the modern era, in the last, I don't know how many years, deficits have become normalized. But
Hmm.
deficits are deferred taxation. Someone will have to pay for that at some point.
Maybe it's a question for your old nemesis, Kate, who used to join us and say that, you could just print more money. But, there are limits to that, aren't there? And
Of
it's a very
course.
fascinating conversation to have. But there are limits to just this ceaseless printing of money, which you've talked about, which leads us back to the BRICS countries who are unloading their trust of the dollar by the sound of it, and perhaps are creating their own currency, some sort of BRICS token. Interestingly, in the newfangled way of perhaps a digital currency. What do you make of that, generally speaking, Paul? What are you hearing about that?
No, I think that they're going to create their own currency, digital or otherwise, probably digital, and it's going to be backed by gold and silver, by precious metals, like pre-Bretton Woods 1971, where governments had to have an equal amount of gold in their vaults to lend or to borrow against.
Mm,
I don't think they'll go to that extent, but I think this digital brick currency will be backed somewhat by gold, and this should be a massive boon for gold and silver because it means that all the countries forming part of this new digital currency will continue increasing their holdings of precious metals, um, and they already have. You've seen the trend, not just the BRIC countries, but across the globe. Most central banks increasing, governments increasing their stocks of gold, their holdings of gold over the course of 2022 and indeed 2023.
interesting. So, yeah, they're going to be coming forward with the new all singing, all dancing digital currency, when in fact, really, the way we trade our current money is digital anyway, isn't it? Largely speaking, but this is going to be a proper digital currency. However, unlike our current money system that we're using, that we trust, and from which the dollar upon which the dollar is based, there will actually be something backing it, some tangible asset in well, not in Fort Knox in this case, other the equivalent thereof in other countries. Paul, always amazing to talk to you. Thank you for being here. That's how you can get in touch with Fiduciary Wealth Management. That's the website there. Is there a final word you would like to share with our listeners this morning? It's been so great to have you back. I hope you'll come back in future.
Thank you. I will. Any message? Yeah. Yeah. Pray.
And then call Paul.
And then call you. Exactly. I'm your savior. Yeah.
While you're on your knees, reach for your phone and
Exactly.
give Paul a shout for
Exactly.
that.
Hopefully they'll do it before they're on their knees. Yeah. They've
Yes.
got the wisdom and the courage to pick up the phone because it doesn't cost anything to get a second opinion and to make sure that their assets are as secure as they can be in this environment. And
Excellent.
don't leave it to chance, because I think the volatility moving forward can get a lot worse than we've seen,
Yep.
and it's
Okay,
to
well,
the downside potentially.
thank you for your sage advice. Pete saying China bought an awful lot of gold. The thing is, silver is far easier to convert. Great guest. Thank you. Cheers for that, T-Duck. For that as well. So, Paul, excellent to see
Thank
you.
you.
Looking forward already to your next appearance here on a Good Morning Portugal. Have a great day, great week in Gibraltar, and say hi,
Same to
please,
you.
to the FW team from me, if you will. Take care,
I
mate. Bye
will.
for now.
Thank
Big
you,
round of
Carl.
applause for
Take
you.
care. Bye.
There he goes. Paul Correa there of Fiduciary Wealth Management. I think before we talk to Paul Woods, we seem to have a persistent caller on the phone. It might be our new best mate who's calling us. Let me just remind you of a TV celebrity who is moving to Portugal soon. This gentleman. Yeah, Monty Gordo, the top TV celebrity from the United States. You may remember him from your childhood. Is thinking of moving to Portugal, and I think it'd be great to hear from a celebrity who is thinking of coming here from the United States. Oh, is that you there? Are you there, Monty? Good morning to you.
Oh, yes, I'm here.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. I have a bit of I need to turn the sound off.
Monty,
okay.
although you're a TV legend, it sounds like technology isn't your best subject.
No. We have all our, technical directors and all them to handle that for my show.
Someone's going to get fired then, aren't they? If for that cock up there, Monty. It's so
well.
Good
In truth,
to hear
they're not
from you.
quite. They're not quite here yet. I'm in the studio to catch the show.
Yeah.
But here in Kansas,
It's
3:30 in the morning now. So.
Okay, all right, fair enough. You're a workaholic, so still at work, and we're lucky to be able to talk to you. What is it? I mean,
yeah, I'm here a bit early today, just because I thought I'd catch the show and see what's going on. I had to laugh at your photo or your sketch of me at the beginning. That was funny.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Approved by your massive entourage, of course. And who doesn't like a massive entourage first thing in the morning? Now, you're one of many American celebrities that's become interested in moving to Portugal. The golden visa has been slain. Now the NHR 10% on booze in the latest budget. What is still of interest to an American celebrity moving to Portugal, I wonder?
Well, I have to say, after your morning's guest here this morning, it's like, wow, I think maybe I'll just go down into my basement. Anyway, no. I actually I heard of your show initially as my wife's sister's neighbor had a friend who had a cousin who moved to that wild California place.
Yeah.
And they mentioned that you'd been talking about me. And I thought, well, I'm very curious. I should see what this is about. Apparently, there's a county in Portugal called Algarve or something like that. And there's actually a city with my name, Monte Gordo.
That's right.
Although they spell it wrong. So I'm not sure what that's about.
Okay, but you're thinking of maybe moving there. I know you're, as well as making a lot of money, and us Brits don't really like to be indelicate on these matters, but let's face it, you made a stack of money, what you say, a ton of money over there in the United States in TV. But,
yes.
but also, you're in the corn business as well, aren't you?
Well, that's the joke in Kansas, the corn state. Actually, there was a musical a while back called South Pacific, and they had a whole song dedicated to Kansas about being corny and all that. So, that may be our claim to fame, but it's actually more cattle and petroleum here.
Oh, okay. And I think you wanted me to mention that whilst growing corn seems easy, it's not quite as simple as people make it out to be. This corn syrup thing, which, let's face it, in the health circles is taking a real bashing, isn't it? No one seems to like corn syrup.
Yes, it really has, and yeah, the corn is easy. Corn seems I'm not a farmer, but corn seems to grow itself pretty easily. But it's getting that syrup out of them that it seems to be the real trick, as shown in the photo that I sent you, which is, got to be factual because it was on Facebook after all.
Yep, well said. Yeah, look at that. So next time you use corn syrup, please take a minute to think about the farmers who work tirelessly tapping the corn stalks to fill millions of these tiny buckets. So well said. Thank you for making that
tedious
point.
work.
Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah. My pleasure, truly.
Not unlike the pine sap that you see being tapped here in Portugal, which I think you'll probably see in the Alentejo and the Algarve. Monty, we're so excited. Look, people in our community are excited to see you here. Is that Monty from Monte Gordo? It absolutely is. This is a TV celebrity who I'm sure will be an important part of the... Well, we need to let you settle in first to your new life here in Portugal.
Well, I seem to have lost you. Sure to be
a big success. Oh, here we go. You're a big success here on the Good Morning Portugal show in future. But how can we help you move to Portugal? What do you need to know about this country that you're moving to and the Algarve?
Well, I'm still just curious and exploring. I haven't even really left Kansas to do any actual traveling yet. But just the fact that there's a city that people are saying is named after me got me quite interested. So I think I'll plan a visit. As I understand it, well, let's see. The bigger cities in Portugal are Lisbon and Porto, and,
yeah.
Oh, okay, yes. And I don't remember where I read it, but you're in what's that? São Martinho de Porto place.
That's right,
Is
exactly. Yeah, and the good news is we've got running water here, because that was one of your concerns, wasn't it? That whether we had running water in Portugal, and we certainly do, which I can't wait to share with you when you get here.
Well, I'll be very interested to see, because I imagine there's still a lot of wagons being pulled by cows.
Asses. We've got lovely asses here, which you'll also be pleased with.
Yes.
I seem to have lost him at Big Asses.
Gravel roads following the old Roman routes.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for taking time. Hello. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, Monty, to join us. We can't wait to share with you the delights of Portugal. Please don't let the golden visa, the NHR, and the extra tax on alcohol stop you from coming here. You're hearing great things, motorways, cash machines, and of course, running water here in Portugal for you. Let us know how we can help you.
Certainly, thank you for the invitation to call. It's a lovely show, and if again, I'll try and catch another episode.
Good on you, Monty. Let's play your music again. Let's keep that applause going and bring onto the screen. We have another poll for you this morning.
Good morning, Carl.
Good morning, Paul. American TV presenters, what are they like, eh?
I know. They like asses, though.
Asses.
Oh, asses, is it?
No, I'm not sure. Yes, let's get that right. Let's see if you're in that same sort of category. Your work perhaps might suggest that you are. Tell us about yourself, Paul Woods. You live in central Portugal. You've sent me the most amazing photographs of work that you've done as an artist. Give us the background. Tell us about you as an artist, and how did you get to be here in Portugal?
Well, first and foremost, I am a professional artist. It's my career. Been doing that all my life. I arrived in Portugal out of necessity, really. Brexit came along, and my wife, Asha, didn't have a birth certificate. Without the birth certificate, we were told we may not be allowed to stay in France. Sorry, because we were living in France. So we had to find another place to move to. and we looked around Europe. We wanted to stay in Europe. And we came across Portugal and really liked Portugal. So we made our move here.
Fantastic. And which part? I think we got to know each other via our good mate BairrAndy. And so presumably you're in that part of the country as well, in the wonderful BairrAndy district.
I'm right opposite the winery.
What, of Luis Pato, or the one that exploded?
Yeah, no, the Luis Pato winery is right opposite me. We missed the wine lake by minutes. My friend Carl and I were out riding, and we went past where that happened, and we passed it very shortly after it actually happened. So I didn't get to see it live, sadly. But that was a pretty dramatic event, yes.
I'm sure it must have been incredible. Yeah. I mean, with your visual eye, to see a red street that should have been a sort of normal tarmacy color, and presumably the smell of red wine just in the air.
It was pretty potent the following day. You could still smell it. Yes. I could have done with some of that wine to keep me going through my late evening art sessions. So
yes, well, let's talk about that then. You and your art, and you know, how the muse strikes you, whether it's red wine or something else. You sent me the most extraordinary pictures of your pictures, as it were. So perhaps we could have a look at those after I found out from you what it is about Portugal that's especially good for artists. Now, I'm thinking, you know, a lot of people compare it to California, and the light. You know, there's a particular kind of light here in Portugal. We have our 300 days of sunshine, allegedly. It's not so obvious this time of year or at the moment. But is that part of it? I mean, I can see light bursting through to your right-hand side here. Is that a lot to do with why you enjoy being an artist in this and being in this country so much?
I like being somewhere where I'm comfortable and warm. The weather for the moment isn't great. We've had a lot of heavy rain. Light for me is not particularly important. I do most of my work at night time, so I don't need a light coming in from the right directions and things like that. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant to the way I work and the type of work that I do.
Well, let's have a look at that type of work now, and if you could talk us through these. Yeah, we're not exactly seeing Portuguese landscapes here, are we? But then maybe we are. Maybe we are in some other way here. So what's going on here, Paul?
Well, my work is basically, it's not about a narrative. It's not something that's telling a story and you're supposed to understand and read the story. It's more to do with composition, significant form, the way lines, areas work together. It's based around, obviously, the figure. I'm not a great fan of going into pure abstraction or non-figurative work. So I love working with the figure. So that there's always people in my pictures. This one is a religious painting. This is someone receiving stigmatas. So the hands are up there with the light going through the holes in the hands for the stigmata. The person's sitting on the ground with a little cross, you can see there, and some flowers. So it's about form. It's about how a picture is composed and balanced, which is one of the most important fundamental elements of creating art. And artists do need to understand composition and balance within a painting, within an artwork.
Okay. Let's have a look at some more of your work. Again, clearly the human form here, a female one, if I'm not mistaken, and a little bit of landscape as well. What's going on here, Paul?
Well, as I say, I'm not telling stories, so what you see is what you're getting there. It's a
Okay.
reclining figure on the grass with a landscape in the background.
Yes.
So it's to do with the rhythm of the line and the shapes that you're trying to take in. So with the face down in the right hand corner, you've got that lovely flowing line that forms the face, the neck goes into the breasts, and then this top and bottom balance with the painting, lines across the top and a line across the bottom.
So it's almost we have a God squad tip of the day, which is a physical fitness intervention from our very own coach here. That to me looks like a core strength exercise as well, strangely enough, and coincidentally. But yes, as you say, beautifully balanced composition in there. And the male form on this one, I see here.
This is me.
That's self-portrait.
This is me in one of my artistic angst moments.
I see. Okay. All right. You've got rid of your clothes in your artistic angst moment there, it would appear. Or is that sort of the nakedness of vulnerability?
I like working with the nude figure because it's timeless. If you have a clothed figure, it automatically kind of gives it a time and other meanings and other relevances to the artwork. So traditionally, artists have worked for many years as the core of the nude, and I like to continue that tradition. It's a bit difficult in today's environment with nudity and things, but I like to continue the trend with keeping the figure.
You make an interesting point. You make an interesting point, as in what the sexualization of the nude, so that people can't. I mean, in a way that you can't look at a clothed figure. That had never occurred to me before. And you're absolutely right. You can't look at a clothed figure without the clothes meaning something historically. Right? It suddenly becomes contextual, doesn't it? And you say, "Oh, that person's from that period."
Yeah.
Whereas the nude is timeless, as you say. However, the nude within sort of politics now, and in sociological and political terms, we are in sort of highly charged times, aren't we? And the form has become over sexualized, you might say, such that we can't see it without there being some sort of sexual reference now.
Well, a part of the style of work that I have is that I like to counter the kind of sexual side of a figure with the way I work. I think if anyone could seriously look at my drawings there and find them sexually exciting, I would be very wary of them, to be honest. It's a deliberate ploy to desexualize it, to make it less perverse or demeaning. Yes, it's a naked figure, but it's not being sexualized.
Very fascinating. Absolutely. And in our times, it's hard to imagine people not being able to do that now with the way we've been conditioned over recent decades. That is absolutely fascinating. So yeah, if the viewer is excited by your figures in that way, perhaps it says more about them than it does about you.
Yeah.
So if we continue, another beautifully balanced, composed picture here. So you say you do these mainly at night. Obviously, you're not. I went off on the wrong sort of tangent talking about the light quality here in Portugal. That's not the style of your work, is it? This is very much from your mind and can be executed, if you like, in your studio at any time of the day. It's not to do with natural.
Anytime. No, I don't need any of that. Any time, and I'm usually at my liveliest in the evening. So I do most of them at night.
Yeah.
The ones that you're showing are some very recent ones on black paper.
Yeah.
So by the very nature of having the black paper, everything looks like it's a night scene.
Yes.
But as you can see in a couple of the images here, I've got the sun. In this one, I've got the sun up in the top right. In the other one, I had both the sun and the moon. I put both into a picture sometimes, sun and moon. So I've got the sun there and the moon there.
Yes.
And you can see the lovely arc created by the flower, the sun, the moon, and the feet at the top.
Yes.
Gives it a balanced arc across the top. And the rays of light sort of spreads out the visual image.
Yes. And a still life here.
I do like a still life. People seem to like my still lives. A bit of fruit. Once again, a nice bright sunny day in the background.
Yes.
So, and color is very important, and I find color sings on a black background. So color looks fantastic on black.
It does. And again, you explaining that hadn't occurred to me. The dynamic that brings using a black canvas, which is a bit sort of going against the norm of things, isn't it? And you sent me this picture as well this morning to describe how you operate in different styles. That looks very classical. That's some of your work as well, is it?
Yes. I wanted to show that because obviously my work that I'm passionate about is quite difficult for some people to take. They don't understand it. They don't lock into elements and principles, so they miss the point of the work. I wanted to show people that I can do classical type work. This was a drawing of a Raphael, all done by hand. No mechanical devices and optical things going on to create this. I wanted to show people that I have that kind of classical training and skills.
Yes.
So I did a series of drawings like this, which I gave away to friends.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. No AI involved in that. So, have you been an artist all your life, Paul?
I've been an artist, yes, all my life. It's been my passion. I just love being an artist, and I love what I enjoy is passing on that passion to other people. Mm-hmm. So when I first came to Portugal, I wanted to set up an art retreat and run art classes and events all to do with art and everything. Unfortunately, my wife died recently, so that all came crashing down.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yes, it was, and still is, a very traumatic moment. So I set up something I call myself Talking Art. So I like talking about art. I like passing on information and understanding to other people. I like teaching to other people. So I'm getting my studio ready so I can run art classes here, either one day at a time or a weekend, or even a long week of doing specialized artwork.
Yes.
So teaching people how art is constructed and creates the sense of balance, and how a painting actually works, because a painting can be successful, it can be non-successful, It isn't in the eye of the beholder, as everyone likes to think. It's objective and subjective as well. So you can understand and learn how to create great works. But unfortunately, it's something that most artists don't do. They're just interested in putting down their colours and feel that's enough. Composition and structure is important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love the cut of your jib here. I think this is so important because in the same way that the nude has been sort of superficialized and sexualized, I think it's the same with our understanding of art, isn't it? And certainly, you know, the kind of art you're talking about with composition and color and within the media you use. Something is not being understood. We go straight to I like it or I don't like it, or looking for a story, as I did. You know, I made a lot of assumptions about you, your work, and art in general. And you've taught me something or reminded me of something here this morning. And that's what you'd like to impart, is it, with the art workshops you do, and your mission as an artist?
Those sorts of things, as you rightly say. People always say, "Oh, I love art. I love art. I like going to galleries and art." But you find out that basically the only thing they can say about art is usually, "Oh, I like that. It's got a cow in it. I like cows. Isn't that a pretty blue?" And their vocabulary is completely gone. They don't know how to talk about a painting because they don't know how a painting is constructed. So you don't get, it's difficult to talk to another person about art if they don't have the understanding and the language to be able to talk back with you. So teaching people how to read a painting, how to look at a painting, and what's important in a painting.
Do you know what, Paul? It's not their fault either, is it? That's the point here. It's how.
No. It's not their fault at all. It's the way art has been taught for so long now. It's this nice approach of whatever you do, you've got to love it. Whatever you put there, oh, that's lovely, that's great, that's fantastic. Oh, you're so talented, you're so good. And if you're brought up constantly being told you're so good, you're so talented, when you're clearly not, you're going to have this problem where everyone thinks they're an artist, everyone thinks that they're a good artist, because everyone keeps saying, "Oh, you're so good, you're so clever." And it's people who don't know anything about art telling other people who don't know about art about how good it is.
Paul, I need to stop you there, and I want you to come back because I'd like to talk about this more. We've got some dad jokes to share by way of a palate cleanser, and sorry, crunchy end here, so to speak. No one likes a crunchy end first thing in the morning. In his epigraph into Bluebeard, Kurt Vonnegut quotes his son Mark and gives an answer to what he believes is the meaning of life. We are here to help each other get through this thing, whatever it is. And clearly, Paul is doing that through art. You've taken us to a new level of understanding there, Paul. So thank you. Do come back and join us. If you like,
I'd love to.
Let's see how you respond to the dad jokes here, because that's all part of being on the Good Morning show. The adjective for metal is metallic, but not for iron, which is ironic. There you go. And please help me stamp out, eliminate, and abolish redundancy. Very funny. And I'm the type of father, this is me actually, who helps his kids look for their missing chocolate that I ate. If you're that kind of father, you should be ashamed of yourself. But we forgive you, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Paul, thank you so much. Thanks to BairrAndy for his help behind the scenes. Take care, mate.
Okay.
Cheers,
Thank you very much. Cheers.
And thanks to Monty Gorda and Paul Correa.